Most people think when they go to the attorney that the attorney's the one that needs to be prepared. And actually the client or the prospective client should be prepared as well. And that really starts with when you make that first call to the law firm. And what I'm talking about there is that normally when you call the attorney's office, the secretary or whoever's answering the phone is going to ask you about who is involved in the transaction, because they're going to want to do a conflicts check. So you should have a list of names to give that person so that they can run that check so that you can get the appointment scheduled as soon as possible. Then one of the things you should also be doing in preparing is ask the secretary, if she doesn't tell you, how much that initial consult's going to be, so you're not surprised when you get done with the meeting and they ask you, for the fee. But preparing for the meeting itself is also critical, because normally the initial consults only last about an hour. And you want to obviously get as much out of that meeting as possible. I mean, the attorney's time is valuable, and quite honestly, your time is too. So things that you can do to prepare for that meeting are, for example, if there's any documents that are necessary to look at when analyzing the transaction or the problem, you should gather those documents before you go to the meeting. Make a copy of the documents and even highlight the important parts that you feel the attorney needs to focus on. Even if there's other things the attorney needs to look at least in that initial meeting, the attorney is going to have an opportunity to look at what you think is important. But again, the attorney's not going to have that opportunity unless you prepare for the meeting. And one of the things you can do is even ask when you make the appointment, ask the secretary, can I fax or email a copy of that document over to you, so maybe the attorney can have a glance at it before it even walks into the room. Because the thing is, as an attorney, you walk into a room, you're walking in kind of cold because you don't know necessarily all the nuances that are involved in the transaction. So the more of an idea the attorney can get as to what is going to happen at the meeting as far as the discussion items, I think the better the appointment's going to go. Another key aspect of preparing for a meeting with your attorney is to have a chronology of events. I can't tell you how many times a client will come in, a prospective client comes into a meeting, and they have to search and think, and when I ask a question, and they really don't have a command of what the facts are, not because they don't know, because they're nervous. It's the first time they maybe have been to see an attorney before. It's sort of like going to a doctor. Those things don't come readily to your mind. But if you write them down, then it's not a test in your memory. Another key part of going to an attorney is have a list of questions. Know what you want to ask that attorney, because it's like going to the doctor. How many times you walk out and you think, oh God, I forgot to ask him this. And so in order to give the attorney the opportunity to really get a handle on what your case is about, you want to be prepared. And it's not only just the attorney sizing you up, but you want to be able to size up the attorney. Is this somebody who you have confidence in, have a rapport with? And you can get an idea by what's transacting in that meeting, and you get that by, does the attorney answer your question? Does he sidestep the question? Is he getting annoyed because you're asking too many questions? I mean, quite honestly, that time when you're meeting with that attorney is a critical point, because you want to be able to hire the attorney that you can work with. And you want to be taking notes during that meeting, because inevitably you're going to walk out of that meeting and maybe forget what the attorney said. So really, by preparing for the meeting, it's a two-way street. And what I mean by that, the attorney's wanting to decide whether or not they want to accept you as a client, but more importantly, you want to decide, is this the attorney you want to hire? And even if it means possibly sending business away, I always tell clients, get a second opinion. Don't just simply rely on one opinion. Even if it's a small transaction, it may be something that you want to make sure that you're taking the right path. So preparing to go see an attorney is actually preparation. It's not just making the appointment.